What is with the Clintons and unexpected death? No, this is an old conspiracy that has been circulating for a long time. It dates back to before Bill Clinton became the first black president. Now, it goes back to when Bill was the governor of Arkansas and was accepting hush money from Barry Seal, allegedly. The Clinton kill list is comprised of people who have died mysteriously, that were in the inner circle of the Clintons or had information that might damage their reputation. There are 50 people on this list that died mysteriously that had some type of connection to the Clintons. You have Kevin Ives and Don Henry, also known as the Boys on the Tracks. Now, it's a famous unsolved mystery. The two boys died simultaneously by getting run over by a train. The boys witnessed a smuggling operation at the Mena Airport in Arkansas that Bill Clinton was connected to. The coroner's verdict was death due to falling asleep on train tracks. He said they fell asleep because of high levels of THC in their blood. Okay. I don't know if smoking too much pot makes you fall asleep on the train tracks, but okay. When the parents of the boys did a second autopsy, it showed that the boys were already dead before the train accident happened. What adds more mystery to the unsolved case is everyone who was going to testify on the boys' behalf died. Keith Coney died when his motorcycle slammed into the back of a truck, July of 1988. Keith McMaskill stabbed to death with 113 stab wounds, November of 1988. George Collins died from a gunshot wound, January 1989. Jeffrey Rhodes was shot, mutilated, and found burned in a trash dump in April of 1989. James Millen was found decapitated. However, the coroner ruled his death due to natural causes. And then Jordan Kettleson was found shot to death in his front seat of his pickup truck in 1990. Now, I didn't bring any of that up because you can't find articles on it. It's knowledge, I guess. I don't know. There's a lot of forums that have it. I'll put sources down in the description below. So, and what makes this even odder is the person who was suspected of murdering the boys died. You know, his name was Richard Winters. He died in 1989 during a robbery. And here's another one. A guy by a name of Paul Wilcher, an attorney, who was investigating the drug smuggling operation at the Mena Airport, was found dead on the toilet in his apartment in June of 1993, which is the same year Bill Clinton would win his presidential bid. He was going to release his report that would tie Bill Clinton into the corruption at the Mena Airport. Several months later, Paul Wilcher's investigator, Dan Casolaro, was found dead in a hotel bathroom in West Virginia. He had slashed 2 cuts down his wrist to the tendons, which, makes whatever. That's not too far out of what could happen. Maybe he was feeling depressed because the person who he was going to make a lot of money off of died. No. The cops did rule it a suicide, but this is the weird thing about it is in West Virginia, it is against the law to embalm somebody without the permission of kin. They embalmed Danny that same day when he got to the coroner's office without the permission of the kin, and the family was notified 2 days later after Danny's death. So, trying to cover something up? I don't know. But those people right there are just the tip of the iceberg of the Clinton kill list. There's like 50 of them on this list of people who have died that are close to the Clintons or had dirt on the Clintons. And the reason I'm talking about this is because another victim got added to that list. Mark Middleton died last year in May of 2022. Mark Middleton was a special assistant to President Bill Clinton and was the assistant to the chief of staff during Clinton's presidency. Mark Middleton was the person who introduced Jeffrey Epstein to Bill and authorized Jeffrey Epstein's 17 visits to the White House during Clinton's presidency. Mark Middleton was found dead on a farm owned by a nonprofit agency with ties to the Clintons. He was found hanging from a tree with a shotgun wound that blew a hole through his chest. Mark Middleton, all right, drove 30 miles away from his house to this farm that's coincidentally had ties to the Clintons, right? He bought a table, an extension cord, and a shotgun. He tied the extension cord around a tree, climbed on top of the table, put the extension cord around his neck, and then for good measure, shot himself in the chest with the shotgun before hanging himself. Okay. Now, I think the shotgun was going to do the job. Now, he didn't need to hang himself in the process, but hey, whatever. Maybe he was trying to make sure the job got done. Now, you would think this is like this has foul play written all over it, right? And the cops would be investigating this as a murder, and the case is still open because there's no way Mark Middleton shot himself with the shotgun in the chest. Well, you're wrong. Exclusive. Arkansas cop rules suicide and death of Clinton aide linked to Jeffrey Epstein, who was found shot and tied to a tree with an electrical cord around his neck, despite no sign of weapon. All right. The grisly scene where a top Bill Clinton advisor was found hanged from a tree with a gunshot wound to his chest has finally been revealed 9 months after he died. But the sheriff's report into Mark Middleton's mysterious death raises more questions than answers, as it rules he died by suicide. And so it took 9 months for them to... Okay, whatever. Despite no sign of a weapon that killed him. All right. So, all of a sudden, after a year saying there was no gun found, right, at the scene, what we just read, the next day after that article was written, the police released a report saying there was a gun found at the scene. Exclusive! Shotgun was found near the body of Clinton aide linked to Jeffrey Epstein. He texted wife, found a perfect place for a nap before blasting his chest and falling from bench with electrical cord tied around his neck. All right. Papers released earlier by Perry County Sheriff Scott Montgomery said deputies who were called to his Heriff Ranch in Perryville, 1 hour west of Little Rock, after an abandoned BMW SUV was found there, specifically said there was no gun in the car. But now, further set of papers has been released to dailymail.com that says the weapon of the Stroger 12-gauge coach gun was found on the ground 30 feet from Middleton's body. All right? So this is the thing. Why wouldn't you just say there was a gun found at the scene? Why for like 9 months, almost a year, sit there and say there was not a gun found? That's what it's been reported on this whole time. That there was no gun around on the scene of the crime or the suicide, right? Why report that? And then just like after you say, well, it was a suicide, then you come out and go, well, we also found a gun. It doesn't make any sense to me. And another thing that doesn't make any sense to me is the chances of Mark Middleton having the arm length to pull the trigger of a shotgun is highly unlikely. The barrel of a shotgun is 18 inches long, and you're looking at another 6 to 7 inches to the trigger. So that makes the trigger roughly 25 inches away from your body. No? And if you could reach the trigger, you would need to put enough force on the trigger to release the firing pin, which is highly unlikely. What is also unlikely, now, and if he somehow figured out a way to shoot himself with the shotgun, right? You know, maybe he grabbed a twig, a branch, and did it that way, right? Let's just say he did that. The gun flying out of his hands 30 yards away is impossible. That's a quarter of a football field. A shotgun weighs about 8 pounds. No, I can see it flying out of his hands maybe 5 feet and maybe 10 feet if it bounced on the ground and it did this weird little tumble thing, right? But to tumble 30 feet away? There's no way. There's no way at all. Now, what are the odds that the only man still alive who can connect the Clintons to Jeffrey Epstein will one day decide, fuck my teenage daughters and wife. I'm going to a ranch to blow a hole in my chest and hang myself because I not only want to die, but I also want to publicly humiliate my soon-to-be widowed wife and scar my 2 teenage daughters for life. No? What are the chances of him just being like, that's what I'm going to do? You know, instead of like going into the bathroom and just slitting his fucking wrist, he decides to go out a grisly way like that. That's gonna fucking harm his family for the rest of his life, for the rest of their lives. What are the chances? I say very slim. You know, and only the Clintons can get away with murder in the age of the cell phone.